He bet I'd never walk straight, so I made sure he'd never walk at all. Marcus made my life hell since freshman year because I was born with a limp and had to use crutches to walk. He'd kick at my heels or grab my backpack so I'd stumble. In gym, he'd tell the coach, bet I can lap him twice before he finishes a mile. Sometimes he'd trip me and then shout for the teacher. He just falls over for attention. When he got bored, he'd record me on his phone, slow it down, and play it at the lunch table. Everyone would die laughing, and I was nicknamed Limpy from then on. When I graduated, I left town and swore never to look back. I put everything I had into college, studied anatomy and healing, and started walking better. Years later, I opened a physical therapy clinic and built a reputation for fixing people nobody else could. Then one day, Marcus came through my clinic door, limping real bad, dragging his right leg and all. He said he'd been in a car wreck so bad doctors told him he might never walk normally again. He was desperate to get better, to walk right, to run again. He told me about his new job, his girlfriend, how he used to be an athlete. I could tell by the way he spoke to me he didn't recognize me, so I used that to my advantage. I gave him the biggest smile ever and told him, we'll get you there. It just takes time. The first month, I ran standard sessions like gentle stretching, light resistance, basic balance work. I praised him and encouraged every step, even acted like he was my favorite patient. Then I started making tiny changes. I'd adjust the weights on the machines so they'd feel lighter than they looked, then slowly add more than his body could handle the next week. Sometimes I'd move the foot pedals just out of range so he'd strain and pull at the wrong angles. Other times I'd call him in for an early session, then leave him waiting for 40 minutes, tell him there'd been an emergency, then rush him through his exercises so he'd feel flustered and unprepared. I built him custom routines with impossible combinations, such as lunges with weights one day, isometrics the next, always changing, never letting his muscles adapt. When he asked for exercises to do at home, I gave him routines that focused on the wrong muscle groups, told him to do extra reps on his bad leg, lied about what would help. I'd take detailed notes, file every document, have him sign every consent form. He never asked questions. He just looked at me with that same hope in his eyes, desperate to be fixed. Every time he asked if he was getting better, I'd look him straight in the eye and say, just a few more steps, Marcus. But he was getting weaker, and his limp got worse. He struggled to climb onto the therapy table. One day, he broke down crying in my office, told me he felt like a failure. I nodded, patted his shoulder, and told him setbacks were normal. When he tried to get a second opinion, I reassured him he just needed to trust the process. I made sure his new doctor called me for records and left out the real progress reports. By the end of the year, Marcus needed a walker. He could barely do stairs. At the same time, his friends, girlfriend, and job all let him go. He looked at me with red eyes and asked, what do I do now? I told him, sometimes you just have to accept what life gives you. He cried hard. He moved out of town a month later. I heard he lives in an apartment with a ramp now. He never runs, never jogs, barely walks without help. I walk without a limp these days. Every morning, I take the stairs 2 at a time. I don't trip, I don't fall. I remember what it felt like to have every step stolen, so I took his, all of them.